Hey guys, it's Beholder1 here. Welcome back to another video. And today, I am back in my room, again, with the Pennsylvania Railroad M1a mountain type locomotive that has still not been numbered. So, since my last video, there have been a number of changes to this engine. You could probably see a lot of them. Tender is basically the same. As a matter of fact, it's exactly the same as it was in my last video when I finished the locomotive. But there have been a number of renovations to the actual engine, which may take a little while to go over. Also, I have two new passenger cars that I will be going over towards the end of this video, so stay tuned for that. So there have been two big changes to the front of this engine. The first being the bright red Keystone number plate that's now sitting proudly on the front of this engine. Now, the reason it has it is because, as mentioned in my previous video, originally the Pennsylvania Railroad M1s, M1as, and M1bs were designed to haul passenger trains. So they were all outfitted with this Keystone, which is why mine has it. However, despite them being designed to haul passenger trains, they ended up hauling freight trains for most of their service life. However, because of their 72-inch drivers, they were actually good at hauling both. I would have preferred them to haul passenger trains, which is why I built passenger cars for it, but that's a different matter. Anyway, getting back to the locomotive, the other big change is the now dark gray boiler front to match the front of the boiler itself. Originally, it was a bright gray, very bad transition looking, not well blending at all boiler front, and I hated that, so I hand painted the front to match the rest of the boiler. So the front truck also got a bit of an upgrade. Rather than having the Lego base plates for structure, it now has Technic axles, which makes it a little bit more streamlined. It also kind of narrows that front gap, so it can make the turns a little better. However, it's also a lot lighter, which means that as it goes around curves, it has a tendency to pop off the track. So when I end up doing running sessions, odds are there's going to be a lot of cutout segments because this truck is going to keep falling off. Also, if you're wondering why the back wheel is slightly off, it's above the track because rather than having both wheels, I just like having the very front set of wheels on the track so that it makes it easier to do the curves. Now, I can lower that back wheel if I have a more realistic turn, which would be a lot wider. So if I ever get those turns, I will lower that, but for right now, it's going to stay where it is. So onto the top of the locomotive. The sand dome got a massive renovation. It's now 5 studs wide on a 6 stud wide boiler, which was fun to try and figure out. Also, these little wire things they were a pain to put on, but they actually look really nice. Now, the one issue with this being 5 wide is that I can't find a perfectly foolproof method of keeping this inside the engine. So whenever I'm doing like work on the bottom of the engine, it proves to be a bit difficult because this has a tendency to fall off no matter what I do. Moving back, the whistle got an upgrade, as did the safety valves. The safety valves are now the prototypical gold that they would be on the actual model, and the whistle is now a hand-painted gold, which looks a lot better. It was originally a blue, and anyone who plays with Legos knows what that piece would look like if it was blue. I hand-painted it gold because a blue whistle doesn't look great, and I actually think it turned out rather well. It could be a bit better, sure, but it was fun to do, and it's pretty good for being hand-done. Now, here's the biggest change. I 3D printed some custom-designed drive rods. I did not buy these because to get all the parts online would cost a lot of money that I did not want to spend. So I talked to my engineering teacher at school, and because we have a 3D printer, he allowed me to print all these pieces out. It's on both sides, and it actually does work. It looks really cool when it's in motion. Now, it took a couple tries to get it right, mainly because I didn't realize that, Lego's a German company, so it's in metric, not imperial, so that took a couple of attempts. Also, this main drive rod here took 5 attempts to actually get it to properly connect across all 4 wheels, which was a pain in the neck, and I felt really bad for constantly asking, hey, can I redo this? So every time I would walk in, he would pretty much just know why I was there, and it was great, is what I would say if that was remotely the case. But it looks really nice. I'm glad with how it turned out. And Maybe at some point I will reprint them so that they're actually all in the metric system and they all work properly with studs, and it'll be a bit smoother because occasionally it locks up and there's a lot of glue involved here to keep it all together, which is annoying, but you know, it works, and it works for me right now, and until I get the time to actually like redo them, this is how it's gonna stay. The inside of the cab also got a couple renovations, most notably this back head. I love the way that this turned out. It could be a bit better. It's not entirely prototypical, given that it doesn't have the red valves and everything else that comes typically with the back head. But I think it looks nice. I also added an engineer and a fireman, which was a lot of fun. So there's this one interesting and rather annoying characteristic of this engine. For some reason, whenever I have friends over, this thing likes to fall apart. Whether it's the drivers, or the sand dome, or the boiler front, or the cab, it just blows up on me, and it's annoying because I go to show people, hey, I had this really cool train, and it just falls apart. The tender is no exception. The tender has fallen apart on multiple occasions, and the passenger cars are definitely no exception, because they break everywhere when I have friends over, and it's really frustrating. So, as I said before, I have 3 passenger cars that go along with this engine. The first one is this. Now, this you've already seen. You saw this in my last video. And it's still a mock-up. I still need to finish up the top. I don't know if that's actually ever going to get done. It's a nice first car, but I wanted something a little better. Now, as I mentioned in my last video, I was going to make another car. I ended up making 2 in the 3 months between this video and the previous one. This is the first one, and this was the first one I built after that video. I called this the candy cane baggage car, because it looks like a candy cane. It goes red, white, red, white, red, and there's a little white in the middle. It was a lot of fun. It's completely from scratch. The trucks are nice, and this car is actually equipped with something that I mentioned in the previous video that I was still debating on. It is equipped with ball bearings, and it rolls. Like, my goodness. The first time I put it on, I had it sitting on a curved track, because I wanted to test how good they were, and I put it in the truck, and I put the truck on the track, and I went to go get the rest of the car, and I turn around, and the truck was over against the wall because it had rolled down the track and fallen off the track and kept on going down the carpet. So that basically said to me that, you know, that's great. I got enough for 2 cars, this one and that one. Now, I ended up building another car, which I will be showing you momentarily, so I had to take out the ball bearings and this one, and I put it in the new one because the new one looks a little better. So this one has the old style truck, which, as you can see, doesn't... It's not that great. I still have to get ball bearings for that set, which I will be doing eventually, once I have the money to do it, and I have the time, which is something that's I don't have a lot of recently. But this one has it, and the next one is freaking amazing, so I will get that now. And here it is. This car... I love this thing. It's fantastic. It looks beautiful. It's in a really nice paint scheme. And it's an observation car, and I like observation cars. This is now my favorite. Originally, it was the blue one, because that's the only one I had. Then it was the candy cane baggage car, because it looks nicer than the blue one. Also, it has ball bearings. And then I built this, and this it's amazing. It took 4 6-wide passenger cars to build, which goes to show the difference in size between 8-wide and 6-wide. The 4 6-wide cars that I used were shown in the video where I just had the tender. I did not have the locomotive, and I was strength testing it. It took those 4 cars to build this. And that was a huge debate for me mentally, whether I wanted to keep the 4 passenger cars or I wanted to turn them all into one. And obviously I decided to turn them all into one, and I don't regret that decision at all. This thing is amazing. It still needs all the underframe detail, as does the candy cane baggage car, and I won't be putting probably any on the dining car, but the baggage car doesn't really have a base. It's all open, so I will need to fix that at some point. This actually does have a proper base, so I will be putting stuff underneath of it at some point. And I also need to be doing interior. So that's kind of like the stages of my building development. You have the dining car, that's totally a mock-up. You have the baggage car, which is basically just a frame. And then you're going to have the dining car, which has all the interior detail, all the exterior details, and it looks really nice. So this is the other car that's equipped with ball bearings. So it rolls awesome. I love it so much. And just as a proof of concept, I'm going to tap this thing, and I'm going to make it couple up to the baggage car. Close enough. Now in the future, I plan on building one of these guys. This is a Lego design of a Pennsylvania Railroad P70 passenger car. This is the parts list. So I have a lot of parts that I will need. I have to go through my Lego collection and see what I have, and then whatever I don't, I will have to order. But I like the way this turned out, and I know the pictures from the bottom, but you do get to see the underside detail that I actually bothered to do. I think it looks great. Now this is going to sit between the baggage car and the dining car. I know in the previous video I said the next car I was going to build was going to be a passenger car. Ended up being a baggage car. Then I wanted an ending car, so I built an observation. So I do need a passenger car. I will eventually get around to that. In fact, I might end up building one from scratch before I build this. But I would like to build this. Now, the other reason I got this out is because I wanted to show you the size. This is a standard piece of 8.5 by 11 office paper. And there's the cars. It's big, which I love. I have 2 boxes for the cars. Those are probably going to be the baggage car and the observation car until I get the time to make get another box for the dining car, or until I make a wooden, case for the cars and the locomotive, which I do plan on doing at some point. That's going to cost a lot of money, and it's going to take up a lot of time that I don't have currently, so that's going to be a lot of fun to do when I actually get around to it. Alright, so as it turns out, I have to let it charge up because I haven't run this thing in a very long time, and I didn't realize that the battery was dead. So, while it's doing that, which means that for me it's going to be a little while until I actually do the running sessions. For you, it'll just be until the end of this clip. I'm going to show you how to change the channel on this, because the receiver is behind this plate. So, if I have to change the channel, for the remote, it's easy. The remote, it's just the same thing as anything else. You just slide it down. For this example, I'm going to be using 4 just because it's easiest to do actually in the locomotive. So, change it to channel 4, you just do that. Change it to channel 1, just do that. It's really not that difficult. Now, for the tender, it's a very different process that I will be getting into now. Alright, so going to do this thing one-handed. That's going to be fun. Great job, me. Alright, so to start, there's a little clip on the underside of the engine, or the tender rather, that is for a bit of underframe detail. It looks rather nice, but the whole reason that's there is for the receiver to change the channels. So that's the first thing we have to do, is pull that off. Sorry if my hand's flying around the front of the camera. I have to do all this with one hand, so this is going to be fun, because it's designed to do it with 2. Now, the reason it's a bit complicated is because unlike most Lego tenders, or even some of the Lego diesels, you just pop off the top, go into a receiver, change it. This is a bit different, because it's not designed to do that. So you actually have to slightly dismantle it. So, this is going to be great. I have to take off this piece on the front, and now that I've done that, I can now get to the receiver. Alright, so that was the hard part. Now comes the fiddly part. First thing you have to do, so here's your receiver. So that's how you change the channels, is that little red switch. Now to actually change it all the way, you have to pull out slightly this front plate, and now you can see all the way down to the bottom of the receiver. So you have to take the little lip on the end of this guy. The camera's not going to focus on it. There's a little clip there. Makes it a little bit better. That has to be put in the edge of this, or you can just use the bottom of it, and push it down. Now, going down, that's all you have to do, is just, voila, now it's in channel 4. Putting it in 2 and 3 is kind of tricky, because you have to actually make sure you're putting it in the right spot, and with this thing, it's a pain. The reason you need this is because my finger isn't small enough to actually like reach down in there and grab it. So I need this. And then to pull it back up into channel 1, you push pretty hard up against it, and just pull up, and now it's in channel 1. So we can now push that up against it, clip this back on, and put this underneath, which hopefully will not cause us issues. And there we go. It was then put into 4, and it's now back in 1, which allows me to use the channel 1 to run this engine. So another thing, for those of you using the Big Ben Bricks wheels that I use, these are the XL drivers, because the Pennsylvania Railroad M1as, which this is modeled on, had a 72-inch driver, which is actually almost perfect for the XL drivers. But one of the things I do is I pull these wheels all the way out to the end of the Technic axle, which basically reduces, or actually takes away like all of the friction from the Technic bricks that have the holes in them for the axles, between that and the back of the wheel, which actually makes it roll rather smooth. I like it. It's fun. This is also a good time to demonstrate the drive gear, which looks freaking fantastic. It's a little stiff at points because it's in the Imperial system, so eventually I will be redoing it in the metric, and it'll roll a lot smoother. Also, it clicks a little bit, and you probably can't hear it on the video. It gets a little annoying. Eventually, once it's worn in enough, it will go away, hopefully. But this drive gear configuration hasn't been used nearly as much as the previous. Originally, it was just this side rod and one connecting rod going to the cylinders. Now it's a little bit more complicated, obviously. So it still needs to be run in a lot. And like I said before, once I get the new pieces, which I will hopefully be designing, it should roll a lot smoother. So now it's just a waiting game until the battery is done charging in the tender, and then we can start doing running sessions, and this video should hopefully get interesting. Okie dokie, now that the battery is charged up, hopefully it will be able to pull the dining car. It doesn't have an issue with the baggage car or the observation car because they have ball bearings. However, because the dining car has the old truck system, it's a little bit stiffer. So hopefully it'll be able to pull it. It hasn't had too many issues in the past unless the battery's dead. Flashbacks to earlier. But yeah, let's give it a shot. That's in reverse. So I couldn't get too many running shots because there's a number of faults in the drive gear that for some reason was making it really, really stiff. And the battery kept like stopping and doing that thing that it does when it tries to prevent it from shorting out, or whatever that safety mechanism is. I think that's what it's supposed to do. But yeah, if you know for sure, please let me know in the comments. But anyway, that is the massive renovations. By the way, if this annoys you, I'm sorry. This does rotate, and it likes to go off center a lot. Anyway, this is the new Pennsylvania Railroad M1a mountain type. That's actually the old one, just renovated a lot, so it looks newer. And it has its 3 passenger cars that look really nice. So yeah, I am CW Hollow 1, and have a good day, or maybe good night in your case. See ya.